This video is sponsored by DJ the Lazy Gamer and Crimson Manifesto. Hey all, very quickly before we begin, I've decided to label the first video in this series Part 0 since it was mostly groundwork anyway. Also, you should know the deal by now, stat bar on screen, you should subscribe because it helps the channel out, and consistently watching vids while not being subscribed is cringe. Okay, now onto the show. The opposite side of the law? What if Rob Lucci and CP9 became pirates? Part 1. It has been about a week since we left the hitherto unnamed pirate crew led by Rob Lucci, as much of their time was first spent choosing a destination, and then more wasted effort in order to give Caulifla an opportunity to find the correct route to it, the Sabaody Archipelago, where they seek to prepare their also unnamed ship for entry into the new world, where their first priority will be to find a teacher that can help them develop hockey, as well as a place suitable to begin improving their now vital skills for the new roles on their ship. Today also happens to be one full of big news, as word of their defection from the government has finally gone public, and because I think Morgans would jump at the opportunity to run this story for all it's worth, and more than likely has informants in the Navy, he publishes a full expose on the Cypherpole organization and the world government's use of covert assassins. Remember, Morgans is already arguably one of the world government's biggest enemies, and even when bribed and threatened by CP agents, he refused to compromise, so even though it would definitely increase the heat on him in the World Economy newspaper, his journalistic integrity will not allow him to ignore this story. And as a result, the crew all have been awarded bounties finally, with a bounty of 60 million berries and awarded the brand new epithet of the Cleaner. Caulifla is fairly upset to be awarded the lowest bounty on the crew, not counting the 5,000 berries seemingly offered for Tori's capture as assumed extra incentive. She does, however, take some solace in being worth nearly 4 times as much as Catbird and Nami, even after losing to her. Though the newly dubbed Chatterbox Fukuro isn't doing much better than her with a bounty of only 63 million, something he for one still takes immense pleasure in, as it's still far above Cyborg Frankie, who the government would have had to account for the ability to recreate Pluton when calculating his bounty. Therefore, he is more dangerous than Pluton and should be in charge of the crew. At a bounty of 78 million, escape artist Bluno suggests that this isn't a good thing, since he has a strong hunch the Navy bumped their bounties up out of spite, more so than real recognition of strength, lamenting that his failing to stop Straw Hat so early in the conflict, along with having no witnesses to their fight, must have left a poor impression, since he was worth less than Kumadori, who he is certain he is much more dangerous than. Inspired by his epithet Love Lion and his bounty of 82 million, the ship's musician begins to perform a harrowing retelling of his battle against the great reindeer beast of the Straw Hat crew, and how he has risen from such humiliation to this new station. But this fledgling pirate crew's own beastly powerful trio rebuke him to cram it, as they, like the majority of their friends, are not too pleased with their bounties, but for different reasons. First being Big Bad Jabra, who bristles at being ranked below both Kaku and Lucci in this numbering system as well, and this time with a much greater gap. His mind doesn't even drift to the thought that his impressive bounty of 130 million eclipses that of Black-Leg Sanji, who defeated him. Next, with mixed emotions as he is primarily confused with his epithet, Honest Elder, Kaku is also very upset that the artificial padding of their bounties has given him an unearned lead against Pirate Hunter Zoro, since at 220 million he is a full 100 million berries higher, causing him to swear that he'll triple the intensity of his training while he works to keep their ship in good condition, as well as name it. Finally is Killing Machine Rob Lucci, with a bounty of 400 million, also giving him a 100 million berry lead over his quote-unquote rival in the Straw Hat crew. At the moment though, Lucci seems indifferent, as he simply tears his poster to shreds and looks onto the horizon, stating that such arbitrary numbers are only a distraction, and besides, once they get their payback, the world government will have to truly take notice of how dangerous they are, spurring his friends to focus on their current goal. And so, the collectively 1 billion berry plus crew forge on ahead, intent on furthering their own ambitions for the first time in their lives. Meanwhile, as they arrive in the Florian Triangle's foggy waters on the brand new Thousand Sunny, the current Straw Hat crew run into a sneezing fit brought on by someone somewhere talking up a storm about them. All except for Usopp and Robin, that is, allowing them to be the first to notice what appears to be a ghost ship before anyone else. Back with Lucci's crew, however, Jabra insists on acting as the helmsman for now, while the various crew members busy themselves however they can during the voyage. It is fairly safe to assume there would be 1 or 2 islands between the CP9 training island Gung Hao and Sabaody, but we just can't really account for what would happen on them. And since they aren't even the main goal, I don't see much happening worth our time, and then maybe the odd encounter with other aggressive pirates, or more than likely the Navy, since this would be a crew everyone in the world government is fairly motivated to stop. That said, because the execution of one of Whitebeard's division commanders is getting ready to take place, the Navy also can't spare to deploy any real heavy hitters to deal with the crew at this time. You could maybe make an argument for Fujitora or Green Bull possibly being available to do the job themselves though, but I wouldn't be surprised if both were busy with something I'm unaware of at the time. And I feel like once the crew reach Sabaody, because this is so soon before Luffy, Zoro, and the other members of the worst generation show up, and because I don't feel like Rayleigh would be very interested in Lucci or his crew beyond maybe just having a drink drink, and hearing their story, there really wouldn't be much to stop the crew from just getting their ship coded and instantly moving on to the new world and Fishman Island. A really fun side note though, due to 3 members of the crew being worth over 100 million berries and the fact that they literally defected from the world government and inadvertently helped prove the existence of the Black Ops Cypherpole organization to the wider world, Lucci, Kaku, and Jabra will be considered part of the worst generation in this timeline. Now, even though Fishman Island is meant to be fairly difficult to reach, I think the former assassin would be able to make it either with their ship, or they could see the island in the distance and a smaller team could probably make it using Blue Nose power. Or it could even come down to Fukuro and Kumadori being the only ones capable of making it if things get too hairy. Still, even here, there just isn't much for them to do, and I also think they would move right along with the only real useful escapades the crew could get into being maybe to seek out Boss Jinbei to ask a few questions, who at this point very likely could already be an Impel down. And even if he is present, I don't see us getting much out of an interaction with him at this point other than a short fight if there isn't a misunderstanding, and maybe the exchange of info like Jinbei being asked if someone matching the description of the crew's current target has passed through his territory, while Lucci could begrudgingly end up telling the Warlord of the Sea the Tail of Straw Hat Luffy, since during Thriller Bark we learned the odds were really against the future Pirate King in that bout. This, however, doesn't mean they have absolutely nothing to do while on Fishman Island, depending on how infamous Madame Charlie's fortune telling is, and even then it may not need to be that infamous, since these are former members of CP9, and it's a bit tough to have much info in this world that they weren't at one point privy to. So I believe that Lucci would seek her out in hopes of getting some slightly more accurate and up-to-date info on the information of the crew's current targets. This causes Lucci to reveal to the entire crew what his current plan actually is, as he has waited this long due to what I'm about to say being a small spoiler that ties into a fairly massive spoiler for anime onlys. Yes, that is an out-of-story reason, and you really shouldn't have to worry about it because at the time of recording, you guys are probably going to get episodes that cover this information very soon. Their current goal is to find Lucci's former rival and another CP9 officer that once defected from the world government. Who's who? Jabra and the former members of CP9 old enough to remember the man seem to have mixed feelings about this plan of action, with some like Bluno and Caulifla seeming to hold some disdain or dislike for him, while those more so unfamiliar like the youngest Kaku have to ask if this guy is a hockey specialist or something rare like that to warrant them coming all the way to the New World just to see him. Since it's unlikely a coward like Spondon would come after them himself, that means he may eventually be clear to throw more than a Navy captain like very good at them, meaning the heat they'll be facing is only going to keep intensifying from here, and thus their destination needs to be worth the trip, because if someone like an admiral comes after them as they currently are, their crew will be very short-lived. While Lucci recognizes and agrees with this salient argument, he also points out that last they'd heard from him, Who's Who had found himself in the employ of one of the Yonko, Kaido the King of Beast, aka the name held second only to Whitebeard as the most dangerous creature currently alive. He's willing to bet that to earn the respect of someone like that, his former rival must have really adapted to pirate life and the New World. So in his eyes, their course of action is clear. They either reach a similar level of power before they go after Spondon for their revenge, or they die trying. No more and no less. No one can really disagree with this sentiment, or at least no one verbally wants to, so a short silence hangs over the group. Only broken when Charlie reminds that she hasn't agreed to give them a prediction, since her last one was yet another negative one, as she had just predicted Whitebeard's death to be close at hand. However, this aversion and her own openness to humans quickly backfires on the mermaid, as Lucci is not Luffy, and when not getting what he wants, sees fit to go into intimidation mode. This outcome now made more likely by his current status as a pirate giving him less constraints than he once had. Now motivated to protect her kingdom and establishment, Shirley begrudgingly looks into Lucci's immediate future, and reveals that they will indeed meet their target soon. However, because he does not act of his own volition, seeking him out may result in a loss of their newly claimed freedom. Even threatened for more precise information, Shirley maintains that this is all the detailed predictions can give, before asserting the pirates should leave now before she calls the princes, as their journey will see them meet this predicted fate no matter what they do from here on out. Somewhat grimly accepting this and seeing no real gain in taking on the entirety of the Ryukyu kingdom, they do so. After setting off though, they recognize their next island as Punk Hazard, a former research base for Dr. Vegapunk, which had been abandoned due to a gas bomb detonated in spite by one of the doctor's assistants about 2 years ago. Smartly, they decide to leave as soon as they land to avoid any adverse effects, which brings them to the kingdom of Dressrosa. Disembarking out of curiosity, they see the usual sights of walking and talking toys, but what would really draw their attention is the sound of a rather funky party going on in the kingdom's castle. Even more curious now, as they know very well who runs this place, I think the CP9 crew would attempt to sneak in to see what's going on, because old habits die hard and information is very valuable. We've got a little room to continue to play around, as this is still before the Paramount War, so Doflamingo is currently home and entertaining a very important guest, one of his superiors in Emperor Kaido's operation, Queen the Plague. As a scientist, his job here is to just check and make sure the Smile Factory is running as efficiently as possible, and he has a bodyguard. Crew's current target, Who's Who. As Queen enjoys the festivities though, his observation hockey alerts him to the newcomers not enjoying the funk while spying on them. Then, as possessing slightly weaker hockey, Dofi takes notice of them as well, and only now seems to be intrigued by the party beyond mere pleasantries to keep one of his superiors happy. A bit too lazy to do so himself, and refusing to force their host to clean out the riffraff, the headliner suddenly orders Who's Who to deal with the interlopers as he assumes their navy. Though he isn't very fond of taking orders from Queen, Who's Who also has more of a reason to value his privacy than Queen when it comes to the world government, and so goes after the spies directly. Lucci, relishing this chance to test himself against a real opponent since Eni's lobby, orders his crew to hang back as he decides to go all out from the start by transforming into his hybrid form in interest of this test of strength. He then intercepts Who's Who's charge as he remained in his base form by using Kamisori to outspeed his former colleague. As he appears above him with both fists pointed outward, Who's Who's eyes widen in recognition, just as Lucci gives a predatory smirk and roars out Rokuogun, suddenly blasting Who's Who into a crater in the floor as Queen begins to cheer at the entertainment and Dofi leans forward in his own sadistic glee, seeing a kindred spirit like Rob Lucci, as he gleefully asks for what he owes the pleasure. The killing machine ignores this, however, focusing solely on the cloud of dust that Who's Who made upon landing, as he could tell from the feel of the blow that his strongest technique was just withstood even better than when Straw Hat took it multiple times. Confirmed when the dust clears to reveal a massive saber-toothed tiger casually relaxing in the crater as it speaks in a low purr and jokes that just because Lucci fancies himself a pirate now doesn't mean the two of them are still on the same level, so he'll show him how pirates really greet one another. Hey guys, I'm not going to hold you for much longer. Just a few things to clarify since we did put a light goal on the first part, or which is now part 0. If you saw the latest channel update for 2022, we decided to waive all the light goals, so certain series like this one and Stenku are continuing despite failing to hit those. I apologize for the very short continuation after it took a year to continue the story after all, but some of the challenges of writing the story are due to the characters being depicted in the way they are. There's a separation from the Straw Hat crew that we have to deal with and their adventures, which is always kind of tough to deal with because that's kind of the main, window through the story we kind of get. And there's kind of a lack of knowledge on my part that I can admit to over the alternative routes through the New World and admittedly the Grand Line and stuff as well. Not to mention, it's just before the Summit War at Marineford, so it's hard to mess with major players involved in it when they need to be ready to be there pretty soon. And Lucci's crew has little reason to get involved in it themselves. So I'm pretty curious to see how you guys would feel about me trying to cobble together alternate routes, or if there is a resource outside of the manga or maybe the Viver cards, which I don't have access to, that can help mitigate these issues in future parts. Feedback and comments would be very much appreciated. Thankfully, this won't be as big an issue in future One Piece What Ifs, which if you've been paying attention to my community tab, you know are upcoming. A massive shout out again to RujandoruArt, who ended up doing all the custom artwork that we used of the CP9 crew in this part. And with nothing else to do, we owe a shout out to our patrons and channel members. Eric Dragon, John Sullivan, Genesium, Knuckles OX, Robert Ostergaard, Trent Rouse, Vest the Game, Samuel Vivero, Sage Serendipity, PJ9D III, Anomalous Phantom, Jimmy Alexandre, Jamal Hayden, Jacoby Shaner, Infernate Beast 326, Inebriated, Drax, Dominic Wade, Dominique, Squad 100, Shannon Roberts, Omar Cousin, Jay Ray, Don Sauce, Normandy 1998, Dreadpool, Narku, Aaron Winters, Knuckles OX, Pizza 15X, Zach Haji, DJ the Lazy Gamer, and Crimson Manifesto. I by no means wanted to get old or stale or be understated, but again, you guys do a ton to just help the channel out in really, really special ways, and if you guys want to help out with these people, then you can go down to the Patreon and go and donate there. It's actually best to do so there because YouTube actually takes a pretty big cut of channel membership, but I digress. Any support is great support, and you can do all that by liking, sharing, subscribing, commenting, all the basic YouTube stuff. But with all that out of the way, there is nothing left to say but be sure to take care of yourselves and the world around you, and as always, go beyond plus ultra. And I'll see you guys next time.